Hello, everyone. Being joined here by Regina. Regina, would you like to start?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Today we want to talk about a very specific topic. And honestly, before I tried to talk about this with people many times, and I didn't get success because it's very difficult to express the idea what is ego. We want to talk today about ego. What is ego? How to be with our ego? And in general, for what we have ego.
You know, I really like how you said how to be with our ego. I think when I first started to understand that we have a part of ourselves, this identity that we create, that our family, society, everything helps to create and reinforce. For example, Erik, and then I try to define Erik. You know, where was I born? How old am I? What race am I? What are my beliefs? All this creation. I started to think, do I need that? Can I get rid of it? It's bad, right? And so the fact that you said how to be with it, the fact that we have it, like we have a body, and what what relationship do we have with that?
First of all, we need to create definition. What is ego in general? Because this term appeared in history not long time ago, basically, as I know, in 20th century, before people didn't use so much the word ego. Freud put it on the surface before people use it like from Latin language, but it was not so often. Same like consciousness. It's the new words of 20th century when the psychology becomes very popular.
You've doing your PhD in philosophy. Remind me, and maybe anyone who's listening, the Atman in Hindu philosophy, and maybe older than that. Like there's this idea that we have something beyond what we take to be ourselves.
So Atman means spirit, inner true self. Atman, your essence, Atman. Jivatman, it's your essence, your spirit in the body. And you have also Ahamkara. Ahamkara, it's I created in the society. It's ego.
So this idea, ego is a relatively new term in Western society.
It's true.
This understanding that there is something, this identity, and I'm going to use the word false identity or incomplete identity, it's not a new idea.
No, in the Eastern world, people being very psychology educated from more than 5,000 years ago. You can find scriptures like Upanishads. You can read right now to find on internet Katha Upanishad, where the young boy talk with death, and death taught him what is the self, ego, what is a true self, what is a false self, what is a fear, where is fear arised, how to find your true self. Everything is about the talking 5,000 years ago. In Buddhism and Vedic culture, psychology was known many, many years.
Right. Exactly. This is not a new theme. There may be new words to describe it, but it's not something new. It's an understanding for a long time. It's an incomplete understanding for our society. Most of us live basically under the control of this ego, of this false self, of this created identity.
So let's be clear. Ego is your self-identification, which you create with help of society, culture, and family. So ego, it's one of the type of your self-identification, which is not real, like it's not like a reality like it is. It's that it's like artificial. It's your knowledge about yourself and your masks that you use in society. Ego. Ego is like one of the masks that you use to survive in the society.
Right. We were discussing this morning, we were reading about the way we play these different roles, depending on what job we have. If we go into a store, we play the role of a customer. If we work at the store, we play the role of the clerk or the whatever role in that.
Right.
And society says, okay, when you go into this environment, you act this way. When you go into church, when you go into a library, when you go into a school, you modify how you are. The role is a part of the ego.
Idea of roles is very famous also from Erik in 20th century. They talk about this a lot because we have role parents, we have role kids, we have role lovers, we have role, like, sometimes we act like a child of our parents, sometimes we act like a parents of our kids or our friend. You can notice in your life that with different people you act very different. Sometimes we meet somebody new person and we're like, wow, we don't recognize ourselves even. We completely act different. With some people we are very like open-minded, very interesting. With other people we completely introverts and shy and can't express ourselves. Because even like the role that we pick up also depend in front of who we are.
Absolutely. And it's hard, for example, if we move away from where we grew up and then we go back to the same environment with the people that we knew before, we almost want to change back into a certain character that we were before. And I don't want to get ahead of the conversation. I know for myself, as soon as I started understanding, okay, so we play this role, we have this character, this identity, in my case, Erik identity. Well, is there something beyond the ego? What are we beyond that? Or is there something beyond that?
So, Eastern psychology, which is very, very ancient and profound, says yes, we have beyond our masks true self. And to be connected to your true self, to know who you really are, to know your real quality and your real appearance and your real face, it's the way how to finish suffering. And you know what's so funny? I just thought about this because Buddha, as we know, always talk about, I have found the way how to finish suffering. Desires create suffering. Limit your desires and you will limit suffering. For that time, 2,500 years before Jesus Christ, it was clear like message for people. It was like, wow. Right now, I guess if Buddha would exist right now in our time, he would say, suffering creates by ego. Move away, not move away, but find a way how to be with your ego. And then you limit your suffering.
Well, one of the great maxims that I've heard in spirituality and philosophy is the truth will set you free. This is not anything, hidden knowledge. When we see where we have created a false identity, the seeing itself allows us to let it go. If we don't know that we're doing something in error, how can we change it, right? It's not until there could be some cultural things. You growing up where you did, me growing up where I did, we take for granted like a way of acting.
Give example, please.
So one thing that, coming from the United States and living outside, people always say, you guys have like a customer service that's like false, that like people create this false happiness. Like when you go into a restaurant, you go into a store, and, in Europe, they don't do that as much. And so I've had these debates whether how much of that is real, how much of it's not real, because for a lot of foreigners, when they go to the United States, they think, what is this? Is this real? And so as an American, I try to explain, well, some of it's real, some of it's not real. And where is that? And then, of course, individually for each person, that's different. Do you have an example like in Ukraine?
Yes. First, what that comes to my mind, it's the idea that you need to work hard to be decent person. If you don't work hard, and if you don't suffering from your work hard, something wrong with you. This is so funny. It's like whole Soviet Union, create this idea, like don't have money but work hard, then you're a decent person. And people subconsciously carry this luggage still. If you work little and you have money, you feel guilty. I work with this guilt many years. Like, like if you, this culture mindset, you need to work hard. And in general, suffering is like very beautiful in Orthodox cultures.
Right. I think every religion, every culture has it. In Asia, I'm thinking about Japan specifically, but this idea of honor, and I know that's in the Middle East as well. And it's not just about your own honor, but it's the honor of your own family. Like you could do something that could dishonor your whole family. I think growing up the way I did in Christian background and Catholic, there's this idea of guilt for sins. Whether that's and in one culture, for example, nudity in the United States, you can feel this kind of strangeness about nudity. I live in Spain. There's toplessness everywhere. Tahiti, all these other parts of the world where, women could be without their tops. And it's strange because in my culture, so what you had this idea of right or wrong, and wrong makes you uncomfortable and right makes you relaxed. In one country, they're like, what's wrong with that?
Let's go deeper. Let's go to the consequence of having ego, but on the more personal than cultural level. For example, the ego creates a lot of fears and thoughts. Thoughts create fears. So when we have ego, we have a lot of thoughts. It doesn't matter what culture you're from. Everybody has thoughts, right? And thoughts come from ego. Can you explain it more? I like how you explain it. Think in mind.
So, as I understand ego, my ego more and more, ego is based on thought, and thought is only in the past. So it's a selection of past events put into some kind of pattern or order within our own minds. And everybody's a little bit different. And then we were talking about the collective. So we are constantly, the ego is based in thought. It's a thinking, and the thought being from the past. It's the past projected onto the present. And so in a way, you're constantly going back and forth. Wherever we are in this particular moment, the ego is judging and comparing this situation, the present situation, with the thought, with this accumulation of past experience. And so when we're in our mind is constantly racing back and forth between the stimulation of the present moment through the senses, through a conversation, through whoever we're meeting, and the past, and judging it and then creating an action. The difference, and then I'll pass it over to you, is when we live in the present, outside the thinking mind. So this opens up this non-egoic state of mind, which is awareness without thought. To be completely in the present. The mind is active. So the physical structure of the mind remains active. You see, you hear, the rest of the senses, but you're not going back and forth with the thinking mind. We exist in the present moment. And for 99.9% of humanity, that's very difficult to hold, especially for me and you. and then I'm going to give it to you. In meditation, where we just did our hour meditation, I'm constantly in the present moment, aware of my breath, aware of my body. I'm in this present awareness, and then thinking mind comes in, takes over. I get lost in thought. The awareness comes back. I'm outside of my egoic thinking mind. I'm in present awareness. And then that's seated, but also I intend to, and I do my best that when I'm not in meditation, when I'm on the bus, when I'm walking, when I'm driving, when I'm with other people, to remain in that present state. Could you expand?
Yes, I would add, I like how you say it, beautiful.
Thank you.
I would add also future. As I know, our mind always, when I do yoga classes with people, I always remind them, be in the present, be in the present. This is the source of energy. This is the way how to recharge our batteries. Because our mind always in the past or in the future. And it's true, in the past we used memories. In the future we use imagination. But either in the past or in the future, we lost the energy. It's consumed the energy of the mind, and we lost the energy. And if we want to collect energy, not to lose it, we need to be in the present. I just noticed from my own experience, yes, when you are in the present, when you hear, listen, look, and perceive by sensations, aware what you feel, it's charged. Our batteries we become more energetic. As soon as we go to past, the future, we lost energy. Maybe sometimes it's necessary, because sometimes we need to plan something for future. Sometimes we need to remember something from the past to avoid mistakes, to become wiser. But the problem when we're stuck in this. So from this point, we can go to the next point, ego. If the ego is create thinking process and anxiety for this reason, and a lot of fears and stress and worries, which is not necessary always to have. So ego, is it necessary or not? What role ego does in our life? For what we have it?
I mean, it's a great question. And I think about this question a lot. It clearly has a function because it is, right? It's like our body has a function because it is. Part of being a human being is having a body, having an ego. There is an awareness beyond that. This is all like a factual part of a human existence. If we look at other animals as well, right? This is just a comparison. My personal belief is they have an ego as well. It's a different kind because of the responsibility and the fact that we have such a strong mind and we've created this society. I believe our ego is quite a bit bigger. I don't think a lot of animals, if we've ever been with a dog, I don't think they sit in the thoughts as much as we do. I don't think they suffer from as much anxiety. And it's actually, I love that. You know, they're more present. They don't have the capacity, I think, to go beyond the egoic state. I think the ego is in the most balanced sense, when we're not under the control of the ego. I think it is a great assistant to our higher self while we're in human form. Because we have this mind with all these memories, and we have this capacity to project that into the future, to create things that don't exist. For example, with technology, you can say, okay, I have, this design for a new automobile, telephone, something else. And we need this mind, this egoic mind, to create that. So it has its uses. When we don't have the balance to come out of that thinking, processing mind and come back to the present moment, that's where the system becomes overloaded. And that's where these anxieties, these depressions and all this come, because we can't disconnect from that part of ourselves.
You know what? It's really remind me of one very beautiful mythology from Vedic culture, Vedic scriptures, Upanishads. Help me to find this word. Do you remember? They have a beautiful metaphor that our body is a vehicle. It's like chariot. That's how we call chariot.
Chariot.
Chariot. And our spirit, our true self, is a passenger. And driver is our ego, our mind. And the horses, it's our sensations. Like sensations of smell, eyes, ears, desires. And the sensations, our stomach, our tongue want the sweets, for example. Our eyes want the beauty. Our ears want that. And the mind, his role is to control our sensations, emotions, our, these all perceptions, 5 perceptions. Our ego is navigate our machine. All these 5 sensations needs to be navigated by somebody. Somebody as a mind, as an ego who grow up in the society would say to these emotions, hey, we are going right now to this point. Not to the sweets, not to the cinema, not to the beach. We are going to this point because we have goal. But why? Because we have passenger who has request. Bring me to that place. And the mind and ego, it's saying mind, ego, served to passenger and navigate sense and body. The problem becomes why people has disaster in their life, why we are suffering sometimes, why we are going before we went to the priest, to the church, sorry, I made sin. Now we are going to the psychotherapist, I can't sleep, I think I made something bad, I can't sleep now. Why it's happened? Because the driver of our vehicle freaking out and don't listen the spirit, don't listen the passenger and do what they want. And sometimes he even don't know how to navigate this all horses. And the horses sometimes collapse to different sources. That's when we have collapse of our psyche. And sometimes, okay, he can navigate very good. That's what happened with many successful people in the world who are not happy. They can navigate the sense. They can go to the point. But they don't give any shit what passenger wants. We are not listening our true self. We're never asking who I really am and what I really want and what makes me happy in this life. We don't listen our spirit and we just do what our parents wanted from us or our friends wanted from us. And we try to play these shitty roles to satisfy the people around, to be liked somebody. And never ask to ourselves what I really want, what my passenger, is the main boss in me wants. That's the problem when ego becomes the boss. The driver of the taxi becomes the boss. This is the collapse of culture. And our culture teaches us. Now our culture teaches us, be successful driver, don't give a shit what is your passenger wants. I even don't think about passenger inside you. Just be successful, be the best, be like everybody likes you. Satisfy, others' requests, which is not so important.
I think that's a great metaphor. And it reminds me that growing up in a Christian background where if you read the Bible or somebody reads the Bible too, there's a lot of parables where they'll give these examples, right? They'll say, like the fishermen, they talk about like you teach the man to fish and then, he can feed himself the whole rest of his life. It's great to have this example of the chariot and the driver and the passenger. And I think, I think the video, we should not make the video too much longer. This understanding of what is the ego and what we are beyond the ego is, for me, one of the most fun, like enjoyable subjects there is. So this is a small conversation, dialogue between two people about this. I think for anyone listening to this, there is so much wonderful information, so many great teachers, so many conversations with our friends and family, or even a little bit inside of our own minds to find a greater understanding of this question.
Right.
It's not something to be understood in a 20-minute conversation. This is a great life exploration. It's part of one of the main reasons we're here, actually, to know thyself, to understand who we are at the greatest level.
Right. Yes, we can visit retreats to go deeper and get inspiration to go deeper. We can use even plant medicine, like as in Peru people do, to have conversation with your inner self, understand better your subconsciousness. So many ways. So it's true. This is the just beginning to inspire it.
Yeah, and now we've got the construction noise, so it's perfect. It's perfect time. That's the bell to remind us to close the video.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Friends.
Be well.